If you're looking to identify an argument as deductive or inductive, valid or invalid, strong or weak, sound or unsound, cogent or uncogent, or better yet, if you want to understand the big picture of how all these logical concepts relate to each other, then you've come to the right place. The first thing to ask is, what is the aim of the argument? Some arguments try to make their conclusion guaranteed. That's the hallmark of the deductive argument. For example, all squirrels are mammals. This is the squirrels, so this is a mammals. This argument is trying to show that this is probably a mammals. That would be weird. It's trying to show that clearly this must be a mammal. It's a deductive argument. Its goal is guaranteed conclusions. But some arguments only aim to make the conclusion probable. Then these are the inductive arguments. For example, grizzly bear have not been seen in this park for many years, so we should be safe from grizzlies while hiking on this trail. This is pretty good reasoning, but the conclusion is not a sure thing, and that's okay. It is an inductive argument. So its goal is a probable conclusions. So here the first level of our charts and difference between deductive and inductive arguments. Deductive reasoning is all about the aim of the reasoning. It's what the argument is trying to do that make it deductive or inductive. That's important because here in the second level of the chart, the question is not what the argument is aiming to do, but whether the reasoning succeeds in what it's aiming to do. Let's start here on the deductive side. Let's assume for a moment that the premises are true. Then, is the conclusions guaranteed to be true? If not, the conclusion is invalid. That means the reasoning went wrong somewhere. For example, Mary's pet is a black and white. Penguins are black and white also. So Mary has a pet penguin? Well, no. Even if we assume that the premises are true, that doesn't mean that conclusion has to be true also. For an instance, it might be that Mary has a black and white cat. In that case, the premises are true. Mary has a black and white pet, and penguins are still black and white, but the conclusion would be false. So, this is invalid reasoning because the premises, even if true, do not guarantee the conclusion. But sometimes, when you assume the premises are true, you can just see that the conclusion, therefore, has to be true. This is valid reasoning. For instance, this puppy is either a schnauzer or a bulldog. It's not a schnauzer, so it is not also a bulldog. Now, if it really were true, this puppy is either a schnauzer or a bulldog. And if it really were true that it's not a schnauzer, well, then it would be just have to be a bulldog. How could be otherwise? This argument is valid. It succeeds in its aim of guaranteed conclusion. This same pattern repeats itself over here on the other side. Only now the requirements for the success has a lower bar. Assume for a moment that the premises are true. Then, is the conclusions probably true? If not, we say the argument is weak. For example, I spotted a kestrel last weekend while out bird watching, so we'll probably spot one this weekend too. This premises all by itself just doesn't kestrel last weekend while out bird watching, so we'll probably spot one this weekend too. This premises all by itself just doesn't provide enough information to make it likely we'll see a kestrel. It's a weak argument. It's failed at its aim of making the conclusion is probable. But sometimes when you assume the premises are true, and it's clear that, yes, the conclusion must be probable. In that case, we call the reasoning is strong. For example, the jaguar is Sally's favorite animal. She also enjoys wildlife photography, so she'll probably enjoy this photo of the jaguar. Of course, it's at least possible that Sally won't like this photo. Maybe she's just tired of jaguar photography, or maybe she's there just something about the look, that particular, that she doesn't like. That could be, but still, It seems pretty reasonable to think that probably she enjoyed this photo. After all, she enjoyed wildlife photography and this is her favorite animals. So it's a strong argument. It is succeed, it is aim of probable conclusion. So far, we've been assuming that premises are true. It succeeds in its aim of probable conclusion. So far, we've been assuming that the premises are true. And that was fine because we don't need to know whether the premises are true to evaluate whether an argument is valid or invalid, strong or weak. For example, who is Sally anyway? And it is really true she likes jaguar and wildlife. An argument is valid or invalid or strong or weak. Another example. And it is really true she likes jaguar and wildlife photography. Nobody knows because I just made all this up. But notice that didn't stop from recognizing this is strong reasoning. Back to the flowchart. You might be thinking, I still don't see how can just assume that the premises are true. Doesn't true or false stick? No matter the answer is no, at least not here in this section of the chart. We're trying to determine whether the reasoning is any good, valid or invalid, strong or weak. And for that, we don't need to know whether the premises are actually true. One more example. Sharpies eat bananas. All bananas eater can fly. So sharpies can fly. Now, all of these claims are ridiculous. But notice something interesting. If these premises were not true, then this conclusion would have to be true. In other words, this is a valid argument. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the reasoning, but there are two ways of argument can go wrong. First, the reasoning can fail. The premises might fail in their aim of supporting the conclusion. Remember, we call this weak or invalid reasoning. But second, even if the reasoning is flawless, the premises might be false. In that case, you are reasoning flawlessly about falsehood. That's what happened here. It's perfect reasoning that what happened here. It's perfect reasonings about nonsense. So, back to the flowchart. Here in this layer, we're checking the reasoning. But as we've seen, there is more to an argument than just the reasoning. We also need to check whether the premises are actually true. So if an argument is valid, we need to keep going. Here in this layer, we're checking the reasoning. But as we've seen, there are more to an argument than just the reasoning. We also need to check whether the premises are actually true. So if an argument is valid, we need to keep going and ask, but are premises actually true? If not, the argument is unsound. And that's how to clarify these arguments. It's valid but unsound. Other times, a valid argument will have true premises. These are called sound argument. We saw one earlier here the premises are true and the reasoning is valid. So it's a sound argument. Once again, everything we've just said is reflected equally over here on the inductive side. It's not enough for an argument to be strong. We have also to ask, but are the premises actually true? If not, the argument is unconscient, which to my ear is an ugly word, so I usually just say notice an ugly words. So I usually just say not cogent. But call it what you will. Our jaguar argument was not cogent. Yes, it has strong reasoning, but since the premises were just made up, we can't say they're true. So strong but not cogent. However, if the strong argument does have the true premises, then it's cogent. This bear argument we saw earlier is cogent because the reasoning is strong. And I published this video from California where I do lots of hiking and where the last grizzly was spotted way back in 1924. So this premises is actually true, making it a cogent argument. Was spotted way back in 1924. So this premises is actually making it a cogent argument.